Hypercars are the upper echelon of performance road cars. Each one is a masterpiece in their own way, and claiming that one is better than the other is downright stupid. And this week, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. These are my picks for the 10 bestest hypercars in the world. A few very special lunatics can now own an SCG 003 CS coming in at number 10. Built from the ground up with the help of a bunch of Italian geniuses, Jim Glickenhaus used the initial success of his Ferrari Enzo-based P45 to help him build this SCG for GT3 endurance racing that is also street legal. In order for the SCG to be legal to drive in the States, it had to be sold as a kit car. So basically, you buy the hypercar, it gets shipped to you in pieces, you assemble it at a shop with the help of an SCG mechanic, break every speed limit on your way down to Florida, enter the 24 hours of Daytona, piss off every factory GT3 team that can't keep up with you, have an all-around great time, and then drive back home in the same car. God bless America and Jim. At this level of absurdity, performance is not the only thing at play. To some people, a crazy price tag is just as impressive. The Sweptail, coming in at number 9, ain't that fast, but it has by far the most expensive MSRP in the world, listed at a cool $14 million. You could own almost all of the cars on this list for the price of one Sweptail. And that says something. I'm not quite sure what, but it sounds confusing and a bit drunk. Maybe that's because this car has champagne holders in the center console. It's one thing to pass a really expensive car at the track with your tricked out Honda Civic. It's a whole different thing to make a hypercar look like a Civic by simply parking next to one in your $14 million Sweptail and getting drunk. Since the last one may not be considered by some to be a true hypercar, this next car was built before the term even existed. The McLaren F1 will forever be remembered as the fastest production car in the world during a decade of astonishingly quick supercars. Even though it was ahead of its time, it fits well into the hypercar category because of its close to $1 million MSRP and hyper-fast performance. It even won the 24 Hours of Le Mans by pretty much only adding a wing and racing tires. It was like an accidental SCG that took the overall win, mainly because all the other cars broke down. Either way, this thing is legendary, and nowadays they go for Sweptail money.
12 to $15 million.
If it wasn't for recent advancements in automotive technology, this car would still be at number 1. The Hennessey Venom earned a win for the United States when it set a crazy fast 270 mile/hour top speed record that put all the other hypercars of its time to shame. Horatio Pagani even called out John Hennessey for being a crazy American that builds incredibly fast cars. And now he's on to building the next generation Venom. We don't know how fast it actually is yet, so we can't include it on this list. Same goes for a lot of other concept cars that are planned to be released in the near future. But the Venom will always be the first production car that broke into the 270s. You should know by now that I, like many people, am in love with everything Porsche. So ranking the Porsche 918 Spyder this early on my list kind of makes me feel like I'm cheating on my girlfriend. There's no doubt that I love this car, and it looks amazing in person, and it's a highly sophisticated machine. It's just, in comparison to all the other hypercars in this list, it's just a little bit buttoned down. I get it, Porsches are simplistic and they get the job done. And this one gets the job done so well that anyone can get in the driver's seat and set blisteringly fast lap times around the track. Thanks to a tricked out all-wheel drive system with electronically powered front wheels, it allows the Porsche to slingshot out of any corner and stay planted through tight ones. It's highly refined and creates an absolutely perfect driving dynamic that is highly capable in any driving condition. But as you'll see in my following picks, irrationality and a high level of danger is what makes hypercars so damn jaw-dropping. Number 5 on my list is the Bugatti Chiron, the sequel to what some people consider the very first hypercar, the Bugatti Veyron. I remember when the Veyron first came out. I was at my buddy Trent's house practicing bass for my emo band Morsel of a Crumb when Trent's little brother Corey showed me a magazine with the Veyron on the cover. I started flipping through the pages. 16 cylinders, 10 radiators, 4 turbos. Nothing could ever beat this thing. But in 2016, Bugatti surprised us all when they unveiled their follow-up. The Chiron makes 1,479 horsepower, enough to hurl it from 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds and 0 to 124 in 6.1 seconds. With performance like that, you might expect the Chiron to be a stripped out track monster that you would never want to drive on a daily basis. But you'd be wrong. Not only is this thing one of the fastest cars in the world, it's also one of the most luxurious. The Chiron has a totally cush leather interior with billet aluminum accents. If I was an emo supervillain, I would daily one of these things, no problem. The Pagani Huayra BC, coming in at number 4, is a perfect example of an over-the-top hypercar with lavish styling and performance that is completely irrational and totally magnificent. Every piece of this car was altered to save weight. Even the handbrake was ditched for a lighter electronic system. By the way, lighter usually means more complicated. I watched 3 people struggle for about 15 minutes trying to release that brake. I even Google translated the instructions for them. It didn't help. But that's why this car is great. It gives no f***s. Money was not an object during Horacio Pagani's quest to build the world's lightest homologated hypercar. While the Bugatti has one of the most over-the-top engine configurations, its styling is refined and quite tame in comparison to the Huayra BC. The BC is totally mental, inside and out. The interior is art, the exterior is flamboyant, and the twin-turbo V12 engine sings pure opera. It's everything you would expect from a hypercar that costs $2.5 million, and a perfect example of what it means to be a hypercar. When the McLaren P1 showed up in 2014, it blew everyone away with its incredible style and performance, with a bunch of brand new technology that completely shifted the paradigm of how a car works. It's a rear-wheel drive, electronically dampened, hybrid-powered, Formula One inspired beast with close to 1,000 horsepower. It spits flames, and on paper, looks like the fastest car around. Yet because the P1 is rear-wheel drive, you really have to know what you're doing to muscle this car around the track. For a lot of drivers, like myself, that's what makes driving more enjoyable, even if you're not setting the fastest time at the track. The P1 put McLaren right back up there with the most technologically advanced auto manufacturers in the world. And with the McLaren Senna well on its way, it's clear that McLaren is one of the most innovative and groundbreaking manufacturers in the business. The Ferrari LaFerrari is heaven on earth in regards to hypercars. It's the perfect blend of everything you want on the track and all the street cred you could ever put a price on. Its styling is refined, yet bold. Its V12 power plant is what dreams are made of. And its rear-wheel drive mid-engine layout is something that Ferrari has proven to be the best at for such a long time. It doesn't matter if you were born to race or just a car enthusiast that is very well off, because the LaFerrari fits well into every category. It shifts incredibly fast, has plenty of character to let loose around the track, and has all the incredible driving dynamics of their proven race cars. When you think of all the dream cars that Ferrari has made in the past and you place this one at the top of the list, it becomes obvious how special this car really is. And the donut title for the best hypercar in the world goes to the Mercedes Project One. Just kidding, it's not really out yet, and that would be unfair to all the other masterpieces that paved the way before it. So for now, number 1 goes to the Koenigsegg 1-to-1. Obviously, because it has the number 1 in its name twice. And that's a result of its out-of-this-world power-to-weight ratio. It's literally 1-to-1. It weighs 1,360 pounds and has, 1,360 horsepower. That's 1 horsepower per pound, and it's completely engineered to handle that horsepower around the track. It started setting production car lap records at every single track it was showing up to. And when you're in the business of building multi-million-dollar cars, you better believe that all the other big guns were trying to prevent it from putting shame to an entire industry. Very quietly, we're starting to see an outbreak of concept hypercars that are getting even faster. And I'm pretty damn sure you can thank the Koenigsegg 1-to-1 for that. Although there are only 7 examples, the 1-to-1 has set a benchmark for Koenigsegg and the rest of the auto industry to push the limits to what we previously thought was possible. And that's my list, and I'm sticking to it. Did you enjoy this video? Go ahead and hit the like button and share it with your friends. Add me on IG, add Donut on IG. Make sure you subscribe to Donut. Go to shop.donut.media to pick up some cool donut merch. We got shirts, we got stickers. If you want to learn more about F1, you can check out this sweet wheelhouse episode. Want to know how a turbo works? Check out this episode of Science Garage. What do you think should be number 1? Which hypercar would you buy if you had the money? And I'll see you next Friday.